USDA released projected numbers for the 2012 crop on Thursday morning. The agency projects a record U.S. corn crop of 14.8 billion bushels, with average yield at a historic 166 bushels per acre. The USDA expects U.S. farmers to produce 3.2 billion bushels of soybeans for the 2012-2013 crop due to higher yields. We talked with Roy Smith on Wednesday afternoon before markets reacted to releases.
It's been a week that a lot of different things have happened in the commodity markets. Some good, some not so good, and some absolutely awful. So, you kind of pick your poison and that's where you land.
One of the things that's playing in, at least to some extent, is elections over in Europe. This is playing a part, but how big of a part does it play when it comes to grains?
I think it's a real big part right now. We've seen the effect of the South American crop shortage being a bullish factor in the grain markets for months.
Right.
And that's not new news anymore, although how that report this week ends up being will be important. But I think what is important is that people keep expecting the Europeans to do something about the problem, and all they seem to be willing to do is try to ignore it and kick the can down the road, so to speak. And these elections really sort of put a deadline on what's going on there, and people are realizing that, hey, maybe this isn't going to be all that easy to solve.
The seasonal trends you say are still in play. Explain that to me.
It was really interesting. It's been an interesting year, starting clear back in November and December, when the seasonal trends turned from short to long after the harvest, and we see that what I call the dead cat bounce. In the last 3 or 4 years, that dead cat bounce has just continued to go clear on up into spring. And I do some research, sort of hands-on cash and carry research with soybean futures market, and that was one of the best bullish moves I've seen in 15 years, and it peaked out exactly when the long-term chart said it should, which would have been the last week in April. So those trends are really holding pretty much true to form. Sometimes it's hard for people to take action based on them, but it's usually a good idea.
In that case, tell me what the seasonal trends predict next, because in this second week of May, things haven't been as bright.
That's true, and when I look at those long-term seasonal price trend charts, I see a peak the last week in April, and then a kind of a swoon for a few days, and then another small peak the first week or second week in May, and then you see it trend down into the early part of June, and then a rally in the middle of June. Now, the rally in the middle of June can be a little deceptive, because there was one year in there, 2008, when we had a huge run up in price the middle of June, and that sort of distorts the whole picture. So when I'm talking about clues for when to pull the trigger on making sales, I say you start the middle of April and go through somewhere around the first week in June, and that'll, a lot of years, that gets your highest price that you have available that year.
Let me quickly ask you about corn. On the futures, the December contract is flirting with $5. Cash is going to be below that, but how compelled do you feel to contract for that number?
I think that the December corn probably has got the biggest part of the big crop bid into it, and I'm not really excited about selling at a price that really is break even or a little less than break even for a farmer, depending on whether he's cash renting or whether he owns the land and so forth. I would like to see the corn market come back, the new crop corn market come back before making sales. Now, I split the new crop and old crop there, because the old crop, we've got some of the best basis in history right now. And my feeling on old crop corn is sell something, because you're taking advantage of some of the best basis in the last 10 years. New crop, I'm not really wanting to sell at this price. If we could squeeze 50 cents or $1 out of it, I might be willing to.